Tuesday, March 22nd. Back in the cave with the fellas. Pinky, how you doing?
Man, I am doing great, brother. Had such a good weekend.
Love hearing that. I'm sure we're gonna get a little Pinky story time.
Little bit.
No doubt. SP, how you hanging?
Dude, I'm solid, man. It's been a good week so far.
That's what I like to hear.
That's really good for you, man.
I was going to even make a comment that I normally don't say that.
Sleeping well.
It's definitely something you normally do not say.
No. But no, I had a pretty good week. Very productive yesterday. Obviously, you guys saw some of the stuff I was working on.
Yeah.
Got some other graphics I'm working on. I'm trying to make some moves, man.
We got things coming.
Yeah.
Incrementally stepping into our own.
Full circle, fellas. Full circle.
I will say SP looks like he's gotten some good naps here recently. He's
looking good.
He's got a little pep to his step here, ladies and gentlemen.
I noticed that too. I've been going on some walks, getting into nature.
Hey, man.
Becoming grounded.
You'd be amazed what just getting outside can do for you.
Yeah.
People underestimate it. I truly believe that. Just walk around the block, being outside can do a lot for your self-preservation, if you will.
Chris, welcome to the chat, and thank you. We have been working on it.
We're trying. Good to have Chris. I think Chris was here last week.
Yeah. Chris joined us last week for a little while. When family time allows. I understand how that goes, good sir.
Oh, anybody see anything good this weekend?
I'm about to piss you guys off. I watched the first episode of Peacemaker, and I have no interest in watching anymore.
What? Really?
I don't get it. I'm like this. I just don't get it.
They don't really explain anything until about the third episode.
It really builds on itself for sure. Like it definitely builds on itself.
You didn't find anything funny?
I didn't think it was funny. I didn't find it really entertaining. I thought the character was too over the top. That is just not my show, man. That's not my kind of show.
I loved it.
I haven't heard anybody say that, but
that's the intro didn't want to make you just watch some more.
That's not my humor, dude.
Dude, that intro is like the best intro of all time for a TV show, in my opinion.
I don't get it.
He's not lying. That's pretty good.
I really don't get it. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry. I know I'm going to be in the minority. Now that I know what it's like to be Caleb, right? Where you're like, that is the worst take I've ever heard in my life. Whatever.
I haven't heard many.
It is what it is.
I haven't had many people say that.
Actually, the way you felt about that movie is probably how I feel about Peacemaker.
Fair.
So, yeah.
The movie was trash.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this. I'm like,
each their own, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I did watch anything else. I'll let you know. No, this is not Zach, Chris. This is Aaron, also known as SP.
Yeah, Zach hasn't been with us for a little bit. He's got some work tie-ups that's kicking his butt. Plus, he's on vacation right now down in Tucson doing some golfing. So,
really? No,
yeah.
Okay. Good to
know. He was. So that trip he did last year with the big wigs that took him down to do the golfing and the plumbing expo kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
He was with them Thursday through Sunday, I think. And then he dropped his family off. That was in Phoenix. And he dropped his family off down in Tucson at his parents' house. And then he went back and met up with them for the week and hanging out down there, golfing with his dad and stuff. So
it's spring break this week for the kids. So
he texted me Saturday. And all I got was the scorecard at first. And he had a 75 through 16 holes, which is phenomenal. He had a chance to break 80, which is absurd. I get a text about 30 minutes later. That didn't go well. And I was like, how so? He's like, ended in the high 80s. But apparently he was feeling himself so much after 16 because the guy showed him his score. And he's like, I was so wasted. I didn't even know what I was shooting. Guy showed me the scorecard, and he goes, excellent. Are we putting money down now? Said his score ballooned and he lost his money.
He was feeling himself.
So that's a bit of a kick in the nuts for him, but overall he enjoyed his time.
I'm sure we'll get him back eventually. All right, that was it. Nothing else. I watched Thank You for Smoking.
Dude, that's a classic.
Which was I had not.
Have you never seen that?
I hadn't seen it. I know
Aaron Eckhart is amazing in that.
Andy used to have Blockbuster in his basement, and I remember him talking about it, but I had never actually sat down and watched it, and it's very enjoyable. I loved. There's a conversation where he's talking to his son, and he's teaching his son about debating.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's not about being right. It's just making the other guy think he might be wrong.
Have you seen Thank You for Smoking, SB?
No, actually.
That one
You
is
will
another
love
one I
that
think you
movie.
would
Yeah?
love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I-
that's
Yeah.
really good.
It's
Cheers,
very
Pinky.
good. Very good movie.
Anybody watching, if you don't have a 2-finger, go grab yourself one now before we really jump into everything. You'll be happy you did. We got what am I drinking on?
You finished off the
the
Rocky
brothers.
Mountain Peach.
Yeah, the Leopold Brothers Rocky Mountain Peach. The Leopold Brothers stuff it's sweet. It's if you're looking for just a whiskey, a straight whiskey, probably not your jam, but the apple one was the jam. That apple one,
The
you had
apple
was,
one's probably been the
so
best.
good. This peach isn't bad. The cherry's a little cough syrupy, but it's good.
You got to let it thin out.
We got a little bit of an assortment here, as you could probably see. So we pick and choose as we're feeling our moods.
I've got the Reunion Rye right now. And then we'll probably do some more Breckenridge Bronco
Hard not
whiskey,
to do
'cause
some Breckenridge.
it's-
You've got some reasons to jump on a Bronco whiskey tonight for
Always.
sure.
always. I don't really need a reason, but well, I had a fantastic weekend, which I should because I spent a lot of money.
Memories. That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's what I have to tell myself.
Whole
'cause
family together. It doesn't happen very often these days for you, does it?
all 6 of us. Yeah, we don't get that very often. The teenagers themselves, getting them to like want to hang out with us is usually tough. I get it. I didn't. Well, I don't know. My parents took me out to dinner. They took me out to a movie. I was always happy with that. Like I didn't mind spending time with them, but I get it with Xbox, video games, Wi-Fi.
I mean, it's a different era now. I come from a big
Snapchat,
family though, so
right.
it's you get used to just hanging around your family. It just kind of is part of hanging out.
So since Pinky Jr. Turned 17 yesterday, I didn't realize he is a big basketball fan. I really didn't realize that until maybe a couple months ago. Like he almost is into basketball more than football.
Really, Junior?
Yeah. I think he's more into basketball as a whole, like because he knows like all the players and their stats and all of that. He knows more in basketball than he does football. Like he'll come and ask me questions on football. He knows where to get the information.
Right.
He's on top of it on basketball for sure.
You just let him know if he ever
So-
needs anything. Reach out. And
He loves talking.
I'll steer him in the right direction.
So once I figured that out, I was like, oh, let's take you to a Nuggets game for your birthday. And we didn't tell him, but I was like looking through and I was like, sure enough, the Nuggets are playing on your birthday. So I scheduled tickets for the game, which when you try to buy 6 tickets together, limits your options. And
Usually in the nosebleed.
they were in the nosebleed.
But honestly, there's not a bad seat in the Pepsi Center.
No,
all
it's-
things
it's all
considered.
pretty close. Now it's the characters around you that are somewhat suspect at $25 a ticket. But
You hear some things up there in the nosebleed section
Yeah.
for sure.
well, we just had the group behind us that had like 2 little kids that literally just kicked my daughter's chair and my wife's chair the whole game.
You didn't say anything?
We turned around a couple times, like, can you please have them? And they just like ignored us. Like we weren't there.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly with me.
And we were gonna move, but
Yeah.
by the time the game starts, finally people next to us showed up. Like there was nobody near us for maybe the first 2-3 minutes of the game. Then we look over and all the seats are full. So we decided to do that. I was like, oh, let's get a hotel room in Denver. And then we didn't really get to celebrate my other son's birthday back in January. Aaron, he turned 20, and he had tried to get tickets to Meow Wolf with his friends, and everything fell through. So I was like, oh, we could get tickets to that. Take the wife. She was really wanting to go. I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So I'm in for tickets, hotel rooms.
Yeah, you could have
Wolf.
done Yellowstone for a week and come out the same cost.
Oh yeah, and each meal we had was $100 easy. But the game was fun for everybody but Junior.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Nuggets didn't show up.
He was struggling. He was struggling over there, and I was just like, Joker's a little bit off, buddy. We don't have anybody that's a consistent scorer to really pick up the slack on a regular basis. and the Celtics were literally on fire.
Well,
Like,
they got 2 all-stars on that team.
everything they were shooting, like even though like short white dude was 5 for 5 from 3-point land. Like I think it's Pritchard,
Yeah.
Pritchford or Pitch, I don't know,
Yeah.
something.
Somewhere in there.
He was 5 for 5 behind the 3-point line. Like it was just not the Nuggets night that night. So it was kind of rough to see that.
I know that feeling. I've seen some really good games at Pepsi Center. Ball Arena, sorry.
Ball, yeah.
Seen some really good games there, and I've seen some really bad games. So I can relate.
I told him, I was like, hey, buddy, I'll bring you next year when MPJ is back and Jamal Murray's back, and we'll enjoy it. Meow Wolf, I love Meow Wolf. Such a cool place to go. So we had a blast. My daughter was having a great time because she was just like, take my picture, Dad. Who's going to take my picture now? Like the next room we go to. She was just feeling herself at Meow Wolf. Such a good time. Lot more. It's spring break, so there were a lot more younger kids. That was like, I mean, it's a complete open experience with different rooms and different things. Having little kids running around. Parents, get a leash, okay? Keep your kids with you. Don't let them, like, you will lose your kids in there, but they'll also run into other people as well.
What's funny to me about that is those are the same parents who will go off on you if you let your kids play outside without watching them 24/7, but they get into a closed environment like that and they think it's okay to just, it's cool. It's like a chicken coop. You can just go wherever you want. We'll figure it out later.
Oh, we lost, I lost my daughter and Aaron for at least a good half an hour. Now they're old enough that I didn't feel worried, and they have cell phones, so it was like, okay, we can get a hold of you. But literally, they were exploring. We took longer at one other room, and they went off, and the next thing you know, they're gone, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, I've said it time and time again. My parents had those wrist strap bungee cords for me and my brother growing up. I'll say it every time somebody asks. I guarantee you those saved my brother and I's life. Guarantee it, because when we were younger, man, we were on the go. And there were plenty of times where we did not listen and we took off or we didn't follow when we were supposed to. And my parents were nowhere to be found. And it took us crying and screaming, running around the store to finally find them again or them find us. So those things are legit. They saved my life. So you see me with one on my kid, just know it's because it's the only way I'm going to be able to keep an eye on him.
We used to have this. It was like a monkey backpack. With
with the tail. I've seen that thing too.
And we used to put that on Harmony, and it saved her so many times because she is a runner.
Yeah.
She's definitely a flight risk.
Yeah. I understand.
The other one I did get to try, and I sent you guys some pictures. Dave's Hot Chicken.
Yeah, that looked delicious.
That is Pinky approved. It was fantastic. It's a little pricey. Especially with 6 of us, but I would absolutely recommend get the 2 slider meal. They're gigantic pieces of chicken, and it's a dry rub instead of a sauce, and it is fantastic.
Dry rubs usually have more flavor, in my opinion.
Well, it's not like over the top.
Yeah, I know
some of the ones that are like dipped in the sauce and it's drenched everywhere, like. You're just getting the sauce.
It's more messy than it is worth the time to eat. Kind of, I know what you mean.
This was fantastic. So my son Aaron recommended it. He had gone there before, so ended up being a great recommendation. Great weekend, man. I even had my son on the way back. He was like, "Dad, thanks for buying us lunch." And I was like, because he saw the receipt. You're welcome, son. You're welcome.
Appreciate the appreciation.
Now you know why we're not like, they're all like, Dad, why aren't you taking us on a cruise? I was like, well, first of all, it's Mom and I's 15th anniversary.
Yeah, you don't need to be around for any of that.
So you don't want to be around for that.
We're celebrating the fact that we made it through the 15 years with you.
But I can't afford to buy all you guys food and plane tickets and that'd just be crazy.
See, me, I would have been like, yeah, and when we get home, I'm going to show you a lot of other receipts. See how far these things go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it was good, man.
Solid.
I tell you guys, get up there to Meow Wolf if you get a chance. That's a really fun time.
Wait, was that the thing you were supposed to invite me to?
I did invite you. I
What?
even sent you a message.
What?
I gave
When?
you dates and time. Yeah.
What? When?
I mean, I can.
Went on a Monday because you said that worked really well for you and everything.
Yeah.
Which ironically it wouldn't have.
Oh well.
'Cause
He would have canceled on me.
That's actually probably true. Yeah. Well, depending on when you went.
We went yesterday at 11:40,
Oh no, I could have made that.
and it takes about 2 or 3 hours to get through.
Another hour to get up there at a minimum.
Yeah.
So you're
Dang.
talking half your day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we could have. I mean, we probably could have stayed a little bit longer too. So. Well, let's move on. I can't find. I know I sent it.
See, I'm like, I don't
It might have
remember.
been a text.
I don't remember this coming. That's why I'm like, I remember us talking about it, but I don't remember getting an invite.
You didn't send it through our group messenger chat.
No.
No, because it was. I didn't want to make you guys feel left out. I mean, Zach wouldn't have felt left out.
No, I wouldn't have either. Don't
And,
worry about that, Pinky.
and it definitely was not on Messenger. I'm gonna call BS on this. I got no invite.
How
man.
about I thought about sending it? It just didn't go through.
You know what? That's pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's, you know.
Because I was for sure I sent it.
yeah.
Well, moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Good weekend with the fam. It's nice to hear. It's always good to spend a little quality time.
Once you get to the third errand, it's just too many. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good point.
I hear you.
That's a good point.
All right. Well, what's the next topic we got there, Caleb?
I mean, I think that's. I don't really have. My parents are in town watching the little man because our other babysitter is with Zach on spring break. So
You guys worked out well.
yeah. Well, we called them ahead of time and said, "Hey, how would you feel about?" And they hesitated a little bit because
Did they go silent on the phone there for like a good minute?
well, they were supposed to be up here the beginning of this month for his first birthday. And my mom had to have some hand surgery, ended up getting infected, and she had to go back into the hospital and have a little bit of stay to get it cleaned up. And so they weren't able to come for his birthday. So this actually worked out really well that this was also planned. But originally they were supposed to be here for his first birthday, and then they're coming out the first week in May to watch the dogs while we're down at Disney World. Because they still have a bunch of friends up here and everything, so it works for them to visit and hang out. And so they're like, well, we're gonna have to look at some tickets and make sure we don't have anything else going on. And then they're like, no, yeah, we can do it, cool. And since they weren't here for his birthday, it ended up working out really well. So they've been here since last Wednesday. So got to hang out with the parents, and little man's at home for the week, so it's kind of nice to get on a break and go hang out for a little bit and then go back to work. But other than that, I'm not really doing anything. Supposed to have some fans installed yesterday, and the people who were supposed to install them didn't even call, text, nothing, just didn't show up. So I went back to Lowe's right away and got my money back for the install. And then the wife was like, well, why'd we do that? We could just do it ourselves. I was like, that's what I said before we paid for the install. So all right, cool. So apparently I got to do that this weekend. So that'll be rousing good time.
That'll be fun. I've installed 2 in my house, and one was real interesting because a little bit in a higher spot. So it was
Yeah, I got
tougher
one
to
on a
get to,
12-foot ceiling. So we'll see how that one goes. But everything else is like a regular 6-foot ladder should be fine. So, 2 wires, screw it in, and you're done. So I'm not too worried about it. Might come back next Tuesday though with a couple fingers gone, and then I'll tell you guys differently.
Home improvement.
Good show.
Part of being a homeowner.
That was a classic, actually. It
Do miss it, yeah.
was a classic. So no, I don't really have any other stories or nonsense per se that we need to discuss at this time. So we could probably move along to the sports part of the show.
Let's get into it, baby.
So,
Do this.
we're not afraid to talk about any topics. Not really concerned about what others might say or think of our views, because I feel like we're pretty good at voicing the reasons for which we have the views we do, and we base them in fact. So I don't think we have any reason to not talk about anything and everything. And I feel like, I know we've talked about it before, but it's very front and center in the news here recently, is Leah Thompson, the transgender women swimmer,
Man.
just won championships for the NCAA swimming for Penn University. And there is a very divided line. And I feel like just from my own kind of surfing the interwebs and chat rooms and Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff, I feel like there's starting to be more of a backlash than there is a support, which at first I kind of felt like it was a 50-50 thing. And now I feel like that's kind of swaying because honestly, a lot more women are starting to voice up and say how displeased they are with the situation, which kind of surprised me that it's taken now to get there. But maybe it's just because it's so much more in the national media because she's a champion now than just competing. But there's definitely a big push here that people are really starting to worry about women's sports as a whole. And, you know, SP and I have talked about it a handful of times where there's, whether you want to admit it or not, there's no denying the fact that there is a inherent biological difference for Leah Thomas than there is any other woman that she's competing against, whether she's taking estrogen or trying to reduce her testosterone levels or whatever it is. She spent 18 plus years being a male and going through puberty and allowing the body to grow into that form. So I mean, she was setting some records. She was definitely ahead of her competition by some serious lengths. And there was protests the entire weekend outside of I don't know if it's called an arena, swimming venue, whatever it is. So it's definitely a very controversial topic at this moment.
I mean, it's kind of like taking performance enhancers, right? And hers were just natural. Like she didn't have to take any; they're just natural. No matter how much you suppress the testosterone hormones, they're still there.
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't hurt being 6'4".
Right. Yeah.
Bit of a difference when it comes to height advantage, things like that as well too. Obviously, shoulders, you know,
Torque.
wingspan, all of it. You know what I mean? It's just there are a lot of inherent differences that really even shouldn't be debated. And
my thing is if you want equality, and that's what the LGBTQ community is always preaching is equality, wouldn't you then just create your own competition for the transgender athletes? I mean, if you've got,
I think we'll get there.
If you don't want men competing in women's sports, and very rarely do you see a woman competing in men's sports,
right,
the way they made it equal was to make sure women had every opportunity to play the same sports that men did, and they're separate. So to me, the common sense thing just seems to be you create a transgender sport.
You just
Now
don't have enough.
There may not be enough to make it
yet.
worthwhile at this point in time, but I mean, women's sports started with not enough people to participate. You know, it had to grow, and as it grew and more females competed and tried different sports, then those sports, I mean, WNBA didn't always exist, right? That had to gain some momentum before it was seen as something that could happen. Granted, a lot of them went overseas to play before the WNBA existed, but you know, you got to start somewhere. And I feel like knowing that there are inherent advantages and disadvantages, that would seem like the logical next step to me. You don't hear about any transgender female to males competing in male sports.
At least none that are successful.
So
I haven't heard of any at the moment, but
I mean, to me, I think there's a reason for that, which is we've kind of already covered. But
yeah,
I was very blown away actually at the amount of support and lack of support throughout the weekend.
It's a pretty hot topic out there, but you won't see this on the Dan Patrick Show or Rich Eisen.
Sure.
Nah, SportsCenter didn't even cover it.
Yeah, SportsCenter didn't cover it. It was heavily on Facebook, and I think it's a hot topic between both sides. But it just comes back to: are we cheating women out of the ability to compete by allowing a woman who's still physically a man?
Well, I think what would be really interesting is if she tries to go to the Olympics, because there is a transgender female track athlete who tried to compete in the Olympics and they have gone back and forth on
Powerlifter
basically.
too, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there a weightlifter?
Is there a weightlifter too?
Yep.
Well, I don't know about the weightlifter, but I do know about the track athlete. And they have gone back and forth multiple times on testosterone levels, testing at a certain level, being higher and lower. So she's suspended from the competition. She's back into the competition. Like it's gone back and forth quite a few times. She ended up, last I remember, if I'm correct, and I might be wrong, but last I remember, I believe she didn't end up qualifying for the last Olympics. So it became a null and void conversation at that point. Like nobody wanted, there was no reason to talk about it anymore, but
it's only an issue if they win. The way that it's a really hot topic when they win, because now you're like, well, they're taking that championship away from a normal athlete. And that definitely stirs it up.
Right? I mean, it definitely makes it more front and center.
You know, the thing that I've not seen anywhere, and this is the part that kind of blows my mind, it's why are you not sitting down these athletes and asking them, do you legitimately believe you have no advantage over these people that you're competing against? And I want to hear it from them. I want to hear them say, no, absolutely not. Right. I want it to come from their mouth.
They've actually asked Lia Thomas that, and she has said no. Now, the stat that keeps getting thrown around whenever those comments from her come out, and she's since not said that over the last month or so, mm-hmm. She has very much distanced herself from those types of comments. But the stat that then always gets thrown up is, as a male, you were 454th ranked swimmer. As a female, you're ranked 1. And that then very much starts pushing buttons on either side of the conversation.
Sure.
Because you'll have the side that says, well, that's because she's female, so why would have she been great against the guys?
Yeah.
And then the other side is like, no, she's a guy, and that's why she's blowing away the women. So again, very, very hot topic.
Maybe the easiest way to do this is just to put a little asterisk next to their name and then, you know, give the trophies to the other people. Because, you know,
I don't know any good solutions, but it's definitely a problem that needs to be worked on.
Well, yeah, and it goes so many more layers deep when you start talking about the transition and how far into the transition you are, and
but again,
all of those things as well.
It doesn't change the inherent aspects.
No,
of it, though,
and I very much agree on that. I feel like that's going to be the next level of this conversation as it keeps going forward. If it stays in the national media spotlight, is, well, then, you know, if you haven't transitioned, then how much of a female are you? Are you just saying, I feel like a female, so I'm going to compete against females, and so on and so forth. So it's not just, you know, the transgender aspect of going from male to female and just leaving it at that. There's so many other layers mentally and physically that go into that whole conversation that, you know, the more it's had, the more it can be not taboo. And I'm, you know, I've always said, I'm all for being whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
You want me to call you Leah? Fine. You want me to call you John? Fine. Like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
What I do care about is equality and fairness. And this, to me, just doesn't feel like it's fair.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to for me.
It's not even an argument. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. It's never even close when it comes to these things. Like, the only argument could be with an MMA, right? Because when, I don't remember her name, when she finally ran into Cyborg and Cyborg rearranged that face, that was the only caveat. But like, do you know who I'm referring to? The MMA fighter that didn't tell anybody that they transitioned and they were in the women's and absolutely destroying these girls.
Oh, I think I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. No, I can't remember the name either.
I don't recall her name, but anyways, so she was, you know, obviously moving up the ranks and then finally went against Cyborg. And Cyborg showed that they could throw down.
I mean, Cyborg's half man based on all the steroids she takes, but, you know.
Well, she also, I mean, she's one of the first ones, the pioneer, which means she was always training with the guys. So she has a different level of competitiveness and wherewithal, I guess maybe you could say, because when you train at a different level or a different physicality consistently, with people who are inherently going to be bigger and stronger than you, that's going to change the way you go about. That's why you always used to hear, oh, she's a tomboy.
Yeah.
You know, there was a reason that term also Now everybody says that that's not kosher. But there's a reason that term got thrown around so often back in the day. And it's because those are the females who are always playing with the guys, playing in the guys' sports. They could hang with the competition to a certain level. So
I'm gonna transition now because we brought up combat sports. Did anybody check out what happened this week? I think this weekend,
Saturday,
in Miami.
Well, are you talking about Masvidal?
Yeah.
And what a terrible transition, Pinky. We got to work on your.
I need help. Okay.
we got to work on your flow here, my man. Yeah, they saw each other outside a club, and Masvidal popped him.
Yeah.
Just the one hit.
A couple, by all accounts, it was a couple. Broke a tooth and broke his nose or something like that. But like, why are you even talking about that?
I feel like that's a big deal.
Well,
not really.
I mean, it could be.
Two UFC fighters fighting outside the ring.
No, it doesn't sound like it was a fight. It sounds like Masvidal threw a couple cheap shots.
Colby was talking some trash, and the story says he was talking about Masvidal's daughter as well. So
that wouldn't surprise me. But again, that's not. I mean,
I don't think Masvidal needs a lot of reasons to start throwing punches.
Masvidal got his ass kicked in the ring, unfortunately, and he's looking for a reason to hit somebody.
He got laid on.
Did we bring this up last time with Cain Velasquez?
I don't think we talked about Cain.
No, I was going to say we should talk about that. With him bringing that up, I was like, well, since we're not actually talking about the UFC, then we can definitely talk about Cain Velasquez.
He brought up MMA.
The amount of support he's got, actually. If you don't know, Cain Velasquez, UFC heavyweight, former champion. His niece was...
I think it was his daughter.
No, it's his niece.
His niece?
His niece was sexually assaulted. He decided that was not going to fly for him, and he wasn't going to wait for somebody else to handle it, meaning the authorities.
Yeah.
And he went and handled some business with the guy while he was with his father, I believe. The guy who was accused. Fired some shots, did not hit the guy who sexually assaulted his niece, but did hit the guy's father, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which is why he's being brought up on the types of charges that he's being brought up on. But the amount of support he is getting is beyond, like, I'm fully behind him. Like, to me, if you're going to do that to a child, the community has a right to cane you. Like, that's just, there's no acceptable way that's okay.
That was definitely not an intentional pun, right?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Just checking.
That's pretty good, though.
Yeah.
But I am actually surprised at the amount of UFC athletes publicly coming out in support of him.
Did you hear what Joe Rogan said?
I did.
Yeah.
Go ahead and feel free to share it, though.
Yeah, he said, the only issue I had with it is I wish he used his hands. And beat him to death. I'm like, woo. I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's okay to have that opinion, but I don't know if I would necessarily say that, though. You know what I mean?
Rogan's got that Spotify money. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what he does, though, is shares exactly how he feels at all times.
I do get that. I do. But, you know what I mean? I don't know.
The problem with sharing that opinion before the trials even happen is it can sway negatively the final outcome. Unfortunately, in those situations,
dude, these types of cases are just strange cases, period. Because guy back in the 80s.
Yeah, back in the 80s.
Yeah, I was telling you about that.
We had a conversation on
the
that.
one walking through the airport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shot the dude, cold blood right there, and
all premeditated
on live TV.
Never even did jail time, right?
Correct. You got 5 years probation. Because the judge said, something tells me this type of circumstance won't come up again to put you in this situation. That was it. So that's what I'm saying. It's like weird things happen when it comes to these types of cases. The issue is, you're right. He did not get the guy who was the perpetrator of this situation.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes an issue.
I really believe that's why the charges are so strict when they were finally filed, is because the bullet did not hit the man who molested the child. It hit the man's father.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you start, like, I can't say how I'd feel as a parent if my child did something like that, but I would venture to believe it'd be hard to just turn my back on my child. Don't condone it. Don't say by any means it was ever okay.
Yeah.
Tell your kid they're screwed and they're going to be in a lot of trouble, but that's still your kid. So
yeah.
I don't fault the father for still being with the son, by any means, but
I feel like you've got a moral code that you would have taken him to the authorities yourself if you were physically able to.
No.
You wouldn't do that?
My moral code is not such that the authorities would have been the first call.
All right.
I like to think I've got a really solid moral code, but you do that to a child? No. I'm not a big fan of that. Look, and I've got plenty of background with being a Catholic. So there are things that are completely off limits for me, and that is definitely one of them. There is an innocence that you have forever ruined, and that doesn't sit well with me at all.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. So I cannot say that now I'm not going to kill anybody, because I don't believe that's my place. You know, with my own belief system, I do believe that there's a higher power that's going to choose when you go, and I'm not going to be the one that chooses that. But you're not going to be feeling very well if I know who did it.
Enough said.
We'll leave it at that.
Oh, and I know you guys aren't going to talk about this, so I'll bring it up.
I was actually just going to transition, so by all means, please do.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, so finally, after a couple of delays, Hafthor and Eddie Hall had the heaviest boxing match ever. It actually was not bad. I ended up watching it, went all 6 rounds.
Which blew my mind, because Pinky and I had mentioned it a little bit last
I didn't
week
think they'd make
on
it
your
past a
behalf. And
round or
we
two.
thought 2 rounds max and it would have been over.
Yeah, because those dudes are thick. You know what I mean? Like but Thor actually looked decent. I'm not gonna lie. After watching Eddie train, I'm like, I think Eddie's actually got this, because he was putting a lot of effort into it. And Hafthor, he never showed any of his training. So it was like, you kind of have to make your decision based on what you see.
Sure.
And Eddie Hall is the kind of guy who goes out there. Matter of fact, after the last 3 like radio spots and things like that they did on their little tour, I really wanted to have Thor to rearrange him, like for real. By the end of it, I was like, dude, I just can't even support Eddie.
From everything I heard on interviews leading into the last couple of days before the fight, his ego was showing way too much.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that.
And it irritated me. And I'm like, dude, I just hope he loses at this point.
I also figured, I mean, let's be honest. If the Mountain really wanted to win, he could have jabbed him for 3 rounds and just kept him at bay. I mean, there was no way Eddie was getting inside of him. Like, that just wasn't going to happen if he chose to. And that's actually kind of what ended up happening.
Oh, yeah. Well, he had that nice, that 2 tap and then the left hook that just dropped him. And I was like, oh. Yeah, that felt good to watch.
Did that end up being a knockout, or
or
did it go the full?
It was a
6?
knockdown. It went the full 6 into decision. So, but Hafthor had it.
The first thing I thought of after I saw the highlights of that fight was it would be really cool to see what he could do if he trained with the Klitschko brothers. Are you familiar with the Klitschko brothers?
Yeah.
So both former world heavyweight champions, both really big dudes in their prime when they were fighting. I think they're both like 6'8"-ish, a good 260 plus. But they were boxers, not just big dudes who boxed. They were boxers.
Yeah.
So there was a good number of their fights that I watched back in the day. And the reason that it really came into the front of my mind is because with everything going on in Ukraine, I can't remember if it's Vitaly or Vladimir. One of them was the mayor of Kyiv. And so they're both in the army now fighting for their country and defending their cities. But I've seen a couple of interviews with them, and they are very no-nonsense guys, always have been. And just watching them give interviews about what's happening in there made me think about some of their fights and the way people would always come in and think, well, they're big, slow Eastern European guys. I'm going to outbox them. And they would just do work on people. So seeing the Mountain be as ginormous as he is, it would be interesting to see somebody like the Klitschko brothers take him under their wing for a couple years and see what he could really do in a boxing ring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's talking about possibly fighting Tyson Fury.
He would get smoked.
Pretty sure he would.
That wouldn't even be.
Yeah.
People look at Tyson Fury and go, you're a fat, out of shape white dude. And then he gets in the ring and he starts dancing around and he's throwing nasty jabs and then some cuts. And that dude is a boxer through and through. There's a reason he smoked Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder is not a boxer. He is a beast of a man who wants to knock you out, and that's all he's good for. And Fury danced around the Gypsy King. Like, I just love everything about Tyson Fury. Like everything about Tyson Fury, I love. And I love Wilder because he came out before one of his fights and he's like, I'm King Kong and I'm going to smoke you. And then Wilder comes out and he got danced around and just popped and smoked left and right by Fury. And I loved every second of it. Plus, when you call yourself the Gypsy King and you don't run away from your past of drugs and alcohol and all of that, and you fought your way back to become a heavyweight champion again. I mean, the story just matches everything about him that just you love. But yeah, that would not be a good idea on the Mountain's part to fight Fury.
He doesn't need to.
Be a hell of a payday though.
Yeah.
But according to Fury, he's done after the second fight. He's got one coming up, and then he'll do one more, and then he said he's going to retire. And people are like, "Why?" He goes, "Because I have a shit ton of money."
I mean, that's a good.
And they're like,
Yeah.
"But don't you want to, like, the people want to see you fight?" And like, he's like, "Fine, but I'm not going to."
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think Hafthor is just gonna cause a good. It's squash. You know what I mean?
Because he's done on World's Strongest Man as well, right?
That's a
He's
young man's
retired.
game, dude.
It really is. He's 33 now, which does.
Oh,
it's
those
not-
guys compete up into their late 30s.
Yeah, but
you don't win though.
no.
You can compete all you want. You don't win.
The amount, it's no different than like Tom Brady never having an off season. There's a reason he doesn't have an off season because he can't afford to take a month off and then try to get his body back. I mean, he's talked about the amount of injuries. You tear a pec, you rupture a bicep, all those things just become more and more and more inevitable as you start pushing
Yeah.
your body beyond its limits, especially at those ages.
And the other thing too with strongman is you can like prepare for as much as you possibly can, but when you get to the competition, that's when you find out what you're doing. So it's like you can only prep so much for it. Yeah, I mean that's why you get so many injuries, you know, because they just weren't training for those types of things. Like certain deadlifts, squats,
We
things
got to
like
get
that.
out to one of those one day.
Dude, this is pretty dope, man. I like watching strongman and I like watching power lifters. But those are definitely the worst injuries you can see. When
I
things like
hate
that
the
come up.
semi-pull stuff. Like that's never. I've always thought that was a stupid way to show strength. But when they grab the atlases, that's always been mind-boggling
I
to me.
liked one of my favorites.
Here's a 2-ton round rock ball. Go ahead and pick that up and carry it 100 yards. Like, oh hell no.
I liked it when they tossed the beer kegs. I don't think
Oh,
they do
yeah.
that now, but they used to.
They did. Yeah, you would have to throw up over.
Yeah.
The bar and stuff. Yeah, that's.
And it's not the fact that they can pull a semi; it's the fact that they're racing. Like,
Yeah, it didn't ever show. I mean, I get even to get it moving is an incredible feat of strength. Like I understand all that. It just never, to me, is kind of always like whatever.
I like a lot of those different ones they've had when they've had to carry like a wheelbarrow full of rocks and
That's the kind of stuff I enjoyed watching because
the
it.
shoulder press one.
Yeah. Feel like, well, why would do such a weird object to pick up and carry? Because there's so many muscles you have to work at the exact same
Right.
time to hold something like that and be able to lift
Where
it.
they have to like get the big huge thing that's got like two handles that they have to like pull up over there.
The log.
yeah.
Like that stuff's just crazy.
Yeah, in 2017 they had the Volkswagen frame race.
Yeah.
The actual
They strapped it.
Volkswagens.
It looked like they were wearing some overalls.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's just a BW shell.
Yeah.
They just like, it's so funny to watch them like climb into it too, because there's these giant men trying to get into this tiny little car.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden their heads pop up through the center and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, but you can't argue their strength, man. Like,
No,
with,
God, no.
with Thor having a 501 kilo deadlift for the world record, that's just ridiculous.
I get up to 350 and I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
But-
good.
But that's pounds. This is 501 kilos.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
That's 2 to 1, isn't it? Kilos roughly.
It's more than 2 to 1.
yeah.
501, I'm pretty sure that. Hold on, let me just see.
Check it out. You're sitting in front of a computer.
1,104 pounds,
So a little bit more, about 2 1/4 or so.
something like that. That's
2 1/4
Yeah, 2.2
pounds equals a kilo.
Yeah.
2.2.
Yep.
Mm.
That is a lot of weight. Just to even think that somebody could pull that, you know what I mean?
A
is
lot of useless
ridiculous.
information floating around here. Conversions, numbers.
But then again, my boy with the bench press, the fact that he can
If he
put up-
ever does it,
dude, I know.
I mean, he's
man.
already done weight that's absurd to begin with. But if he
Right.
can do what he's been training for,
just needs to hit the 800, man.
that's ridiculous, man.
I just think it's funny that he could bench probably like twice as much as I could deadlift. You know?
What's stupid is when you have to get a special bar to even hold the weight that you're trying to lift.
Yeah.
That's when you have to start rethinking, is this something I should really be doing? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. When you get to the point where like spotters can't really help you anymore, that's you're making a choice. But anyways, yeah,
They're just sitting there with a molten core torch to just split the bar in half to flip it outside of you instead of trying to lift it off. Yeah.
But anyways, I wanted to throw that out there because I know it was some time back when I was talking about that fight, and
It finally happened.
And I'm glad Thor won. So
You ready for a transition, Pinky?
Yeah, give it to me.
Keeping things on the insane level, if you will. March Madness is living up to every ounce of its name, baby. Every ounce.
It's definitely brought the madness this year.
You've
For
even
sure.
been watching it a little bit.
I definitely watched my Jayhawks.
Well, they almost lost to my Blue Jays,
They were
my
trying,
Nebraska boys.
They were trying their hardest.
Oh, man, they had it. But, there wasn't a lot of expectation there because they lost their center the game before. They were playing a 6-man deep rotation. Like, that's going to be really hard to do against a team like Kansas where you're rolling 8 deep.
They did. I was impressed.
They were within.
They
They had a
without-
chance to take the lead with 50 seconds left in the game.
Two of their best players were not playing, and they were right in it till the end.
So that was the round of 32. Creighton's game against San Diego State in the first round went into overtime. Just absurd, amazing. You got St. Peter's.
Don't
Just-
mess with
just-
them Catholics, man.
I'm telling you, us Catholics, you do not play
What-
games.
what I tell you guys in chat.
Peacocks.
They hate the state of Kentucky. Them Peacocks do not like the state of Kentucky because they took out the Wildcats first round and they took out Murray State in the second round. Both teams are from Kentucky. So Kentucky apparently does not do well against Catholics. The other one seeds, Baylor's out, lost to North Carolina in the second round of 32. Carolina was up 25 and almost blew that game. Went into overtime.
North Carolina was putting it on them for a little while.
But I told you, did I not tell you, keep an eye on North Carolina to make a run? And people didn't really want to listen.
You may have said that.
So Baylor's out, defending champions are gone. Gonzaga's had a couple
Rough.
not great games. Well, no, they've had great games. They started off slow in both first halves, ended up smoking the competition in the first round by the end. Nail biter in the second round against. Why am I going to draw a blank? Give me a second. Let me just pull the bracket up
Memphis?
here real quick. Yeah, Memphis. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing game.
I was shocked that the number one seeds have struggled.
Well, we
They've
talked
won, but they've
about
struggled.
last week how the thing going in this tournament was parity, which you don't hear a lot of coming in the tournament, but it's proven to be parity has definitely taken over this year's tournament. There are 4 double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16. Michigan, St. Peter's, Miami, Iowa State.
Hurricanes.
Miami's looking good. And I told you, I also said keep an eye on Miami because they play small, but they play really good D and they play fast. And it's hard for teams to stay up with that
I
for
don't
48
really root
minutes.
for their basketball team.
40
I root for
minutes.
their football team, but
That football team's trash.
Hey. Easy.
So it's just been so many good games. Sweet 16 starts Thursday night, Friday night. We'll get the Elite Eight Saturday, Sunday. Final Four will be held Tuesday, I want to say.
Mm-mm. It's the following weekend.
It will be the following weekend, April 4th. And then you'll have the championship game. So
The championship game is it the following Monday?
it should be Tuesday, usually, I
Tuesday,
believe.
yeah.
Maybe the following Monday. One or the other. I can't remember right now.
Final Four in New Orleans. That sounds fun.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds
Not
like
if
a
you're
good
a
time.
player and a coach,
No.
but if you're a fan,
You're a
heck
fan,
yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about the fan experience in here.
So run down the Sweet 16 real quick. You got Arizona, Houston. That's going to be a great game. I don't think anybody's underrated Houston. They have been physical, athletic for a couple years now. Arizona's going to have their hands full there. Michigan, Villanova. I told you Villanova's good, but they're not their elite couple guys that they've had over the last couple of years. So I actually like Michigan to upset Villanova in that game probably, but it's going to be a great game, I think. Kansas Providence, I think your Jayhawks go down. Providence is a pretty good team, and Kansas has not looked great. But then again, they could just keep eking out games and keep moving and advancing. That's all that matters.
That's all you got to do.
Iowa State, Miami, I think is going to be a really fun game. Nobody picked Iowa State to get here. Nationally speaking,
I did in my bracket.
good for you. Apparently, I did as well somehow.
Somehow I picked Miami in my bracket to go.
Miami
I've done
is,
that.
like I said, fast, physical, small ball, so it's hard to match up with them at times. So that's going to be a really good game. St. Peter's against Purdue. Purdue is just a big, well-coached, fundamentally sound kind of team for the most part, and that's going to be a real test for St. Peter's. But man, if they could get to the Elite Eight, that would be just sick. I don't care how bad my brackets get busted, as long as it's a Cinderella doing it.
I'm pretty sure both my brackets suck unless KU wins at all.
Well, I don't see that happening, but it could.
Miracles
I just
happen.
don't see it happening.
Miracles happen.
North Carolina, UCLA. I actually think North Carolina is going to smoke them. I really believe North Carolina is just on a roll right now. And the only reason they lost that 25-point lead is because Manic threw that elbow, got ejected, changed the trajectory of that second half. They started playing scared instead of aggressive, and that will definitely catch up to you. So I think North Carolina smokes UCLA. Texas Tech, Duke. Duke's playing pretty well right now. Texas Tech is a great defensive team, so that game's going to be very interesting. And then you got Gonzaga, Arkansas. And Gonzaga keeps starting slow. If they do that against Arkansas, they might be in trouble. But I don't see them losing to Arkansas. So it'll be interesting to see how the Sweet 16 goes. The matchups right now say we're going to have a lot of good games. But look, I said it last Tuesday. I'll say it every chance I get. There's a reason it's called March Madness, and it never fails to live up to its name. Ever.
Sometimes.
Never.
There's been a couple years where the majority of the 1 seeds get there.
There's always a Cinderella, and there's
But the
always, even if the
years-
1 seed wins, there's still buzzer beaters. There's still great
The
games.
years they don't, and it's truly March Madness, is a really awesome thing.
So I got stuff I got to take care of next weekend, but I will still have my phone glued to me if I'm in an area where the games are on. But it was on all week. At one point, even my parents are sports fans, so they were watching most of the games with me. Kaylee knows better. When my family's around, we're going to be watching sports. It's kind of the one get out of jail free card I get when it comes to sports. If it's with my family, it's just going to be on. But even my parents at one point, it was, I don't know, there's the night game going on, I think Saturday. Creighton had just lost to Kansas. And they go, so are there any movies you guys want to watch? And I go, there's still games on. And they're like, yeah, you have like how many other TVs in this house? I was like, fine. I'm out of here.
Kicked you out of your own TV, man. That's messed up. This is your house.
Well, I was outnumbered, when the wife is already saying it. And then
You're a nicer man than I am. I don't care if it's my in-laws, my own parents. If I'm in my house and there's a game I want to watch, which again, most people know, football Sunday, like I'm watching football. Like my kids know, don't ask dad for money. Don't ask to go anywhere. Go talk to mom. Like dad is involved. I could see you being that way with basketball. It wouldn't matter. If I'm watching the game, I'm watching the game. Go to the other TV. Like,
well, part of it is
I'll give you money. Go to
part of it is if I go to the other room and watch the TV, I know I'll be left alone completely.
Good.
There won't be like any conversing or like, hey, what's for dinner? Or
I don't need any
so
of
that's
that.
part of it. The other part is my wife does not like sports. So it also becomes that happy wife, happy life scenario a lot of the times. So I pick and choose the arguments just to make sure I can continue to watch it. So, it happened.
I'm pretty drama free.
So I should
Your
just
wife's
come
a
over
little
here.
bit different, though.
Mm-hmm.
Bunny's awesome. We love her. But she does let you just kind of do you.
Yeah.
There's something to be had
mean,
for that.
Well, because we were friends for 6-7 years before we even started dating, so we were like already, do your thing, you do your
So
thing.
my wife
and-
knows I do enjoy watching other sports, and I will give in to other sports, but football is like the one. Like, she doesn't ask me for anything on Monday nights, Thursday nights, or Sundays. Don't do it.
Yeah, I don't have those luxuries right now.
But she also plays fantasy football with me, and so she's kind of involved. And
It helps when you can get them involved a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, my wife won't get anywhere near that. So
I just buy my wife tickets to go to her anime movies. And I'm
Yeah.
like, here you go.
that worked out
perfect.
great.
Yeah,
my wife doesn't really have any friends, so it's. I mean, she's got a couple, but
Yeah.
not that they get together a whole lot or anything. So I don't have like that. Hey, you guys have plans? I'll see you later, kind of thing. It's
Don't worry, I've got the kid. We're gonna
Yeah.
hang out.
Yeah. It's funny, after the Creighton game, my brother texted me right away. He goes, "So you kept Merrick up for that, right?" I said, "No." No, that ended like 2 hours after he goes to bed. No, he was in bed.
Oh yeah.
He goes, "You got to start him young." I said, Don't you worry about that. He's watching plenty of sports with me."
Yeah, he's on a schedule right
Yeah,
now.
he's not. I'm not.
Keep him on the schedule. I
I want
want
to sleep. So that schedule's going to stay in place. But March Madness, love it. If you're not watching it and you're a sports fan, I feel bad for you.
I get jealous. My buddy Gary does go every year for the first round. He goes to Vegas for the first round of the March Madness.
Why?
They just it's a bunch of friends going out. They have a good time. They gamble. They bet on the games. Just a good guys weekend.
No, I wouldn't. No, that seems like a giant waste of money for me.
It sounds fantastic.
I'm going to
me.
Vegas. I want to go. Like, the draft would be fun because you're going to do that. But like, I want to enjoy watching the games and being in a casino on some of those
Oh, no,
screens
you
where
go
you
to
can't
the-
even hear the.
You go to the sports book,
I want to kick up on
Go
my
to-
couch. I want to relax.
and you know what?
Plus, in Colorado, we can bet on our
Trust me,
phones.
you would like Circa.
I don't doubt that I wouldn't like Circa. It's just this is a
Circa's
time of year where
sports fans mecca.
I get that, but I want to watch whatever game I like. Dude, I've told you, I've got iPad has one game going, the TV's got another game going, my phone's got another game going, and then the TV's flipping between all of them at the same time as well. So
You may have a problem.
hey, I don't care. You can tell me. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am the definition of a fanatic. I'm not just a fan. I've got a sickness.
Transition us here.
Yeah, I just lost money real quick. That was fine. Everything I won on the Gonzaga game, turned right around, bet on all the other games and lost. It's like,
Yeah.
this is stupid.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think you guys would learn by now. If I'm not telling you to put a basketball bet out, don't put a basketball bet out.
Well, you want to know it? You don't tell us to put basketball bets.
I told you to bet the Gonzaga one.
Yeah,
that
was
was an easy one.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I bet it. Basketball is not easy to bet. It's not
No.
like football,
No, obviously.
especially not the tournament. The tournament's even harder.
Yeah, because
I was doing solid on my over-unders, though. And then I missed one. Do you want to know why? Because it was a blowout and all they did was hold the ball for the last minute. I'm like, are you
Hey,
kidding
man.
me? I just needed 4 more points.
I didn't this year, and I'm glad I didn't. I managed to stay away from it. But in years past, I've had multiple 10+ leg parlays in the tourney. And multiple times I've lost by 1 game.
it's unpredictable.
So yeah, I've learned to try and curtail my betting, and I kind of put the
I'm-
phone down when the
I'm
tourney
still
rolls
in my
around.
learning phase. I'm learning. I'm getting better. I'll figure it out eventually.
I just stick to football, man. I don't like
Stick
other
to what I know.
sports.
Stick to what I know.
Yeah.
I know basketball, and I don't bet it.
Before we talk,
I've learned my
football, though,
lesson.
We've got tons to talk about football, but
Oh,
before
yeah.
we do, you mentioned, and again, Zach and Dan, they like to listen to this. I'm sure they want to hear a little baseball.
I think the biggest story right now in baseball, one, it's back. So that, we talked about that already. But hey, yay, baseball. You got your head out of your ass and figured out a way to have a season. Congratulations.
Do we know how many years that deal is good for?
I didn't even look, to be honest with you, because I
I think we
don't
were just
care.
happy it was like, okay, it's done.
Yeah, I just don't care at this point because they're going to find a way to stick their foot in their ass again soon enough. So whatever. I think the rule changes are a joke. We've mentioned those a little bit. I'm going to stay away from
like 'em.
that. I think the biggest story right now in the free agent period that they've had, signing period, was the Braves letting Freddie Freeman walk and him signing with the Dodgers. That is huge. You've got another big story, I think, that's kind of gone under the radar is Alex Correa going to the Minnesota Twins instead of staying with Houston.
Carlos Correa.
I'm Carlos Correa. Alex Correa, stupid. Carlos Correa. And I am convinced.
I'm confused by that at all.
I'm convinced the only reason he did it is because he wanted to distance himself from the scandal. He didn't want to be part of the sign stealing scandal, and so
like he's embraced the scandal.
Nope.
So.
Altuve has. Altuve definitely has. He's probably going to be a lifer down there, and he's just going to deal with it. I think Correa didn't want to be a part of it anymore, and I think you don't go to Minnesota as a free agent.
Minnesota, like
you just
really?
don't. And it's not like they paid him an exorbitant amount of money. They gave him basically what the market would bear. Houston was going to pay him basically the same thing. So I think he wanted out of that atmosphere. I don't think he wanted to be talked about anymore. And the further away he could get from it in a small market team, he doesn't have to hear about it really anymore. So that's my theory.
That was a big deal.
That's my theory of why he signed there. Boston signed Trevor Story. By all accounts, Boston fans are not happy about it because they think he's going to be terrible because he wasn't very good on the road and really great in Coors Field. And I think those splits are just highly overrated.
He was hot and cold. When he gets hot, he's pretty.
Here's the deal:
good.
you don't sign Trevor Story because he's a great batter. He's a solid batter, but you don't sign him because he's a great batter. You sign him because he's arguably the best defensive shortstop in the league. And then to take that one step further, by all accounts, he's not going to be playing shortstop for Boston. He's going to switch and move to second base. So they keep a really strong infield there in Boston. So that's going to be interesting to watch.
Hope he gets the ring.
I'd be happy for Trevor if he got a ring with Boston, just because I can't. The Rockies are just the most worthless organization you could possibly have. Signed Chris Bryant to a huge deal. They spent a bunch of money getting McMahon and keeping him.
They signed Chris Bryant to the same money that Trevor Story got. So why not just keep Trevor Story? Like that makes. I'm not a big baseball guy. Everybody knows that.
Technically speaking, Chris Bryant is a better bat. He's not a great infielder. So half dozen the other, I guess, if you look at it that way. Some people are saying he's a bigger name, so that's why you sign him. I think it's a complete joke. I'm done with the Rockies. I'm having a hard time letting go, but I am no longer going to call myself a Rockies fan.
See, I don't have a lot of fandom when it comes to baseball, so I have a really easy time letting go. I technically root a lot for the Braves, just as we talked about watching them on TBS.
Sure.
Like, I am a Braves fan, actually. I'd say I'm more of a Braves fan than I am a Rockies fan. But they normally will try to put out a good product, where the Rockies are like, we don't really care. So
Braves replaced Freddie Freeman with
Matt Olson.
Thank you. Matt Olson from the A's traded for him and then signed him to a lucrative deal.
Sure did.
Which is another reason people were a little curious about letting Freeman walk. Olson's younger, a little more years left possibly. But Freddie Freeman is Atlanta. Like, he is the Braves after all these years.
For sure. It's always tough letting your stars walk. Always.
Especially after they just won you a World Series. Like, that's the one thing I hate and I love about sports is it is a business at that level. So as a business, if you want to be a really good organization, you have to be willing to let your stars walk at a certain point in time.
You have to be able to make those tough decisions.
But I also hate it because, when they get you to that level and they win you the championship and they still are really good, yes, their lifespan may not be as long, but there comes a point where you should be able to do both.
So one of my favorite sayings that I've come up with, I don't know if anybody else has said it before, but in mainly around football, but you pay a guy for what he's going to do, not what he has done.
Not baseball. Baseball, you pay a guy for what he's done and pray it doesn't destroy you in the long run. That's what baseball's always done. It's always blown my mind. It does not make any sense, but that's what baseball
And
does.
I came up with that saying, Andy and I were talking about when the Chiefs signed Eric Berry to like that crazy deal after he had that like super good year after he came back from cancer. And I said, that's a horrible mistake. They're paying him for what he's done, not what he's going to do.
I understand where you're coming from in that situation, but I feel like they were also kind of hoping he would be able to sustain that level.
He literally didn't play again.
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that what his body went through to beat cancer, not so much that he just couldn't do it. You know, had he never had cancer, I don't think that contract would have been bad. Might not have been great, but it wouldn't have been bad. And I've talked about it with James Conner. I'm actually surprised he had as good a year as he did last year with Arizona.
Touchdown machine.
So it'll be interesting to see how he does this coming year, because I do feel like when you go through that kind of treatment, the way it ravages your body and just destroys your immune system and everything else, your lifespan as an athlete drastically reduces. Because your body's just never going to be the same again, no matter how much you train and eat and all the things you need to do to be a professional athlete. That shelf life gets cut because you basically killed your body to get rid of the cancer, and you're never going to be what you were before. You can get close, but you're never going to be what you were before. So the fact that James Conner is doing what he's doing right now, he's kind of breaking the mold, in my opinion. Now, granted, you don't have a whole lot of athletes who have beat cancer and come back. So your
sample size is
very
pretty
small.
low.
Yeah. But we'll see. If he has a really good year next year, I think it'd be safe to say he's breaking the mold and he's doing things differently. Could also say a lot about what cancer research and treatment is now too. So, we've talked about the way people are coming back from Achilles, ACLs, and things of that nature that used to be almost death sentences. Doesn't seem to be affecting people at all anymore. So, modern science is a beautiful thing, and it can help you go a long way, but we'll see.
You ready to join us back, Aaron?
Oh, what are you talking about?
Transitioning to football.
Oh, yeah.
Our favorite part of the show.
Now I'm on board.
He was just working on his taxes, but he's back.
I'm doing art. Leave me alone. Nobody else is going to do it. All right.
So the last 2 weeks have just been crazy. I am still shocked about the trade that happened late last week, where the Green Bay Packers sent Davante Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders. I just don't get it.
It's okay. Nobody does.
I don't get why you re-sign Aaron Rodgers for so much money if you're going to get rid of arguably your second best player. The whole point of bringing Aaron Rodgers back is to try to go win a Super Bowl, I would assume. So trading away the second best player that can help you do that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I mean, by all accounts, it was going to happen. And I'm starting to hear Rodgers knew it was going to happen too. So this wasn't a surprise to anybody.
That's the word. Is Rodgers? They had informed Rodgers before he signed on the dotted line. But I just don't get it. For the Raiders, it's amazing. Wait, I get arguably the best receiver in football, and I only have to give you a first and a second right now? Now, that also goes with I have to give him a monster contract, but they had the money to do so, so it didn't matter too much to them. But I know Aaron loved it because he hates the Packers.
Absolutely despise them. Yeah. So I feel pretty good about it. And you want to know what? Well, I'll let you guys get into it, and then I'll make a comment because obviously you're going to get there. But yeah, it'll be nice to see Aaron Rodgers suffer a little bit, and Davante go out. And
I don't think he's going to suffer at all. I think people are way over exaggerating the loss of Davante Adams for what Aaron Rodgers and
look. All I know is there's two situations that it was pretty much a guarantee Davante Adams was getting the ball: third down and red zone. Aaron Rodgers always went to Davante. Period.
He did. I mean, that was his dude. But part of that is because he just didn't have to go anywhere else. I mean, they had a
I don't-
crazy chemistry and the ball was going
But
to go.
I don't think he could trust anybody else on the team.
I mean, technically speaking, they don't really have any wide receivers on the roster right now.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. I mean, just call me crazy. Or no, Amari Rogers, who they drafted last year.
Yeah, I think it's going to suffer. I mean, you can only do so much.
I think they're drafting 2 in the first 2 rounds. They have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. I think they're going to grab 2. It's my thought.
I don't doubt that. I mean, what other option do they have at this point, to be honest?
Double up and hope one of them hits.
You know, the other kind of this is what I thought would happen before the recent news with Matt Ryan, which I'm sure you've got on your list that we'll run down. But Julio to Rodgers would definitely be worth the risk reward. Look, he was used terribly in Tennessee. Maybe not fully healthy, had some injuries, so on and so forth. But when he was on the field, there were plenty of times he was open and the ball never even went his way. For whatever reason, Tennessee just Tannehill, whatever it was, they didn't have chemistry. He was used poorly. It wasn't a good place for him to go to begin with.
Being a guy who loves Derrick Henry, I've watched a lot of Titans games, and I can agree with you on that, Caleb.
Chinky.
That he was not used very well. He's hurt a lot, man. And I just think I don't know. I don't know.
Well, he's going to Indy now, so it doesn't matter. But that was guaranteed.
You think?
Didn't you see Twitter today? Indy players were recruiting him left and right. Left and right.
I mean,
and again, it's worth the risk reward because he's not going to be asking for a ton of money.
So we're already in that conversation. Matt Ryan traded to the Colts.
Colts did well.
Yeah,
the Colts did well.
Well, considering they traded Wentz before they had another option already ready.
Well, they got lucky. I'm not going to say they didn't get lucky, but they did well.
You know how messed up that is? And they're like, I don't know what we're going to do. I just know it's not going to be you.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did too. They're like, we don't care. You're gone.
If you look at the numbers, you're like, he was 27 touchdowns. I think he had 11 picks. Like
7, I thought.
7
I thought he was 27 and 7.
It wasn't horrible. And
35, 3,800 yards or something like that.
Michael,
with no number 1 receiver.
Michael Pittman is a really good number 2. Really good. There's not a number 1 on that team. Like,
I'll keep saying it though. You do not have to have a true number 1 if you have 2 really good number 2s. And I think Indy has that if, and it's a big if at this point, Paris Campbell can stay healthy and play.
I'm not going to let you play that if game with Paris Campbell, brother. He's never been healthy.
First 2 years in the league, he is not. And I'm not going to ever disagree
and
with
last
that.
year, he wasn't either.
That was his second year in the league.
I think that was his third.
Second. I've got a lot of fantasy stock.
He's got that Keenan Allen start. You know what I mean? I'm sure in
Could be, too.
4 years, he might be killer right now.
There's actually, if you go back in history, there's a lot of dudes in the NFL who had injuries early in their career and then went on to have really solid careers.
Sure. I mean,
Now, here's what's interesting. They brought back Mo Alley Cox, who's been pretty decent as a tight end.
Serviceable, yeah. Sure.
He's got that basketball background, so he didn't play a lot of football. So he's still kind of learning the position a little bit. If, and I know it's a big if, but if Paris Campbell can be healthy, play a whole season, Michael Pittman plays a whole season, Mo Alley Cox has been solid with that run game and that offensive line, Matt Ryan could tear it up.
I saw that they would need, I think overall they still need a true number 1 that's open all the time.
But that's why I love Paris Campbell so much. And again, big if, but when he was on the field, that dude was a little lightning in the bottle. He was open all the time. So I
just can't trust him though. So.
No, that's the kicker. And that's the big kicker. So, but I think I have a feeling that's where they're leaning. They're waiting. They're going to hope he's healthy. Pittman keeps coming along. Jonathan Taylor solves all wounds.
Matt Ryan the Colts are betting a lot on Matt Ryan because they took on that $40 million cap charge this year for him.
Did they?
They did.
I didn't think they had to take that charge on.
So there's still a dead cap that Atlanta's eating as well, but they're eating the rest of it because there was still like actual. There's actual money.
He's got 2 years left on his contract, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So they're kind of rolling the dice for this year. If it works out, They'll probably rework his deal for another 2 to 3, maybe.
I mean, it gives them some time to figure out what plan B will be.
I think they're really waiting for next year's draft and hoping they can draft a quarterback in the first round that
I don't
pays
think
out.
they have any. Well, they might have a pick by then, but it's going to be late. I mean,
What do you mean? They have a first round this year.
they do not.
They didn't give up a first for Ryan.
No, they gave up a first for Wentz.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting that because he played so much. It moved from the second to the
That's
first.
why Philly has 3 picks.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
We'll talk about that.
So terrible. So terrible.
So I think it's a great move for the Colts. I agree. It at least keeps them competitive. They
I
have a
know
good
Colts
roster.
fans are happy it's not Baker.
I would be happy it's not Baker as well.
I don't think Baker deserves the hate.
I don't either.
I don't think he deserves the hate, but Matt Ryan's better than Baker.
Is he though?
He is.
Look,
as a quarterback, yes. I don't think I could
Maybe
ever
as like a
disagree with that.
leader and somebody who can inspire, no. But as a pure quarterback, yes.
Well, yeah.
I would
mean,
say as a pure thrower of the football, yes.
Well,
I
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah, yeah.
necessarily say Matt Ryan's a better quarterback at this point in his career.
I don't know. He didn't have a
Everybody
whole
keeps
lot.
judging Baker on last year, and he played with a torn labrum and a separated shoulder.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
getting a bum deal.
right.
And people keep talking about like he wasn't improving.
But you want to know what Matt Ryan had? A rookie tight end and some dude throwing games so he can make some money.
And
on
he had
gambling.
a wide
So,
receiver playing running back. So
and no offensive line. So, look, I'm not saying Matt Ryan's bad by any means. He's one of only 5 quarterbacks to have 5 4,000 yard seasons.
would I agree with the fact that if you took Baker, he gets healthy and you work out, you have a longer run with Baker
You do.
than Matt Ryan.
Oh, for sure.
But
Yeah.
I think the Colts are like the Colts were literally, we should have made the playoffs. We have the roster to make a playoff run. We didn't.
It's
Chip Wentz
crazy
outta
to me,
here.
though, how the coaching staff isn't taking any responsibility for that
No.
catastrophe.
They are not.
Wentz was the one and only scapegoat for that entire situation, and that blows my mind.
And it was quick too. The owner was like, I want him out of here, and he is gone.
But I mean, remember before the season started, I think I had Baker
you-
projected at something like 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, but
Hey,
he got hurt, and
as-
all his weapons got hurt.
As a Broncos fan, if you would have given me 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions last year, I'd have signed on for that in a heartbeat.
Broncos would have been in the playoffs. Legitimately, Broncos would have been in the playoffs with that kind of stat line. So yeah, that's Ryan to the Colts definitely puts them back into contention. They've got a top 10 defense. They've got one of the best offensive lines. They've got the best running back at this point.
Atlanta was like, nah, we don't need Baker.
Yeah,
We're going Marcus Mariota, baby.
honestly, I would have gone Mariota over Baker too. They signed him about the same deal that Pittsburgh signed Trubisky to. Baker's going to want big money, and nobody's willing to pay that right now.
So it's not the big problem is Baker's currently on the 5th-year option,
Right.
which is $20 million. That's the biggest issue. And teams have to completely take on that $20 million regardless.
Yeah.
That's the big problem.
Mariota's getting like 70 a year, 80 or something like that.
It's
with
eight-
incentives,
it's
it
18
can
total,
go
but yeah.
higher. But yeah, like him and Trubisky got signed cheap. And I said
For-
before the offseason started, those would be the
Well-
2 guys I went after if I was quarterback needy.
Yeah.
I'd roll the dice on
you
both
can-
of them.
You can get out of those really easy.
That's why they're
That's
both
the big
2-year
difference,
deals.
yeah.
Both of them are 2-year deals. Now, where I think Atlanta might have screwed up is you've got Pitts. I don't care what anybody says, Cordero Patterson is a real deal. And Atlanta finally figured out how to use him properly.
Well, I think he's matured too.
I think he's always had the talent. People just wanted to always
No.
fit him into this wide
He's-
receiver
He's
bubble.
had talent. He had not matured into a football player.
I disagree.
He's played for 3.
It was no different than Percy Harvin. If
This-
you use Percy Harvin the way his talent allows you,
Atlanta is like his 4th team.
so what?
And
That's
he's
because
just now
everybody
figured
wanted
it
to
out.
make him a wide receiver. He's not a wide receiver. He is a football player who's really good in the open field. So find ways to get him in the open field. Again, I have said this time and time again. The problem I have with football, and it's changing, but it's taking a long time to change, is football coaches say, here's the box, and you either fit in it or you get out. Most football coaches
Well,
are unwilling to say,
here's
you're
our
a crazy
box.
talent, and we're going to figure out a way how to put the box around you rather than you in the box. And the teams that have learned, Baltimore is a perfect example. Lamar Jackson probably wouldn't be starting anywhere if he had gone to any other team. But Baltimore said, hey, here's what you do really well, and we're going to build an offense around you. It was the smartest thing they could have done. But there's probably 30 other teams that would not have done that if they drafted Lamar Jackson. So Atlanta was willing to say, hey, I know everybody tried to make you a wide receiver. We're going to start running you out of the backfield. And, oh, look at that. You're really good at finding holes and getting in the open field. What? We don't care that we signed a running back to a deal. We're going to let you be the starter now. Kudos to Arthur Smith, because he was willing to go outside the box. So
They needed it too. Like they
absolutely they did.
didn't have a good
But that's
running
where
back.
Mariota could be in a lot of trouble. They didn't keep Gage. Ridley's probably never playing in the NFL again because of mental health and gambling. So, and if he does, he's not coming back for Atlanta. Let's be honest. Atlanta's
he's
going to
play again, but it won't be for Atlanta.
And 2 years out in the league, that quickly diminishes your skill level and your ability to be great. He might be good when he comes back. He will never be great again.
Not
I
if
don't
you're
think.
Josh Gordon, because you can. Yeah, you just come back to the NFL whenever you want. Yeah, I got to spend it.
True,
4
but
times.
he
people
sucks.
kept betting on his what if
Yeah.
and his what he sat 4 years. He went from being the best receiver in the game to sitting 4 years, and it shows what happens when you sit
He
that
looked
long.
awful last year.
So I think Mariota has a chance to do really well. I really do.
I don't think they're going to have any weapons around
But
him
that's
to
the
do
kicker.
anything.
Now they've got some picks. So if they draft properly, they could put some rookies around him that could show out. I mean, let's be honest. It used to be rookie wide receivers did not contribute right away. That has changed.
That's changed drastically.
Absolutely. The last 3 years, that has been proven wrong.
Yep.
So if you draft the right rookie, they could be dangerous. And SP, you and me agree. What we saw from Mariota in his limited action with Oakland,
Yeah.
I'm surprised more teams were not out there trying to get him, especially with how cheap he ended up going to
I would have. If I was
to
Pittsburgh,
Atlanta.
I would have taken him over Trubisky.
I think so too. Actually,
I don't know.
I would have.
I think it's half dozen the other with those two.
I think
be perfectly honest with
Mariota's
you.
just been a more accurate quarterback than.
I think Mariota had better coaching and better players around him in Tennessee than Trubisky ever had in Chicago, and Trubisky did more.
That's not even debatable. Trubisky literally walked through Dante's Inferno. Seeing what he accomplished under that leadership, the coaches, the owner, Trubisky deserves a lot of credit.
And we haven't even talked about what happened Friday yet. Friday.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. By all means.
I was hoping
Stare
to
at
go
each other
lead in.
longer.
Yeah.
It was
You go right ahead.
Deshaun Watson traded to the Cleveland Browns.
So I'm just going to start here. We all are very aware of how I feel about Deshaun Watson's talent. And it was such that I've pulled you onto the bandwagon for the most part. The more I look at this deal and the more I think about it, the more I honestly believe Houston fleeced Cleveland. Fleeced them. It is now 6 picks, 3 first, a second, a third, and a fourth. The only reason he went to Cleveland is because they can guaranteed a 5-year, $230 million contract.
Let's see how the phone calls went. It was, yeah, Cleveland, you're on my list. Great. I meet with you. Yeah, you know what? No, I'm not going to Cleveland. You're out. Seattle. Oh, you're out already. I didn't even talk to you. Carolina. Yeah, no, you're out too. Atlanta and New Orleans. Deals like it literally was almost done with Atlanta. Cleveland calls up, hey, we'll guarantee $230 million and we'll make next year only $1 million.
$1 million. So when he gets suspended, he's losing nothing.
Well,
Business savvy at its
and
finest.
he's like, dog pound, baby, let's go.
Yeah. Look, Cleveland did what they had to do to finally get a franchise quarterback. That was the only way they were going to get one. Let's be honest. But between the suspension, the fact that the cases aren't even settled yet, so you have no idea what can still come of this. I do not feel good about this at all.
They do not care. The civil cases are just going to cost Deshaun money.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
civil
but it's-
cases aren't going to cost him
I
anything
get that.
criminally.
I get that.
so
But
they don't
it's,
care.
It's what it can do to your fan base. It's the level of suspension that could still come.
There's a lot of Cleveland. Cleveland Twitter right now is awesome.
It's hot garbage.
Oh, it's
Oh
awesome.
my God.
There's so many people like, I'm not going to be a Browns fan ever again, blah, blah, blah. And you got other Browns fans like, well, where were you when Kareem Hunt got signed? Or the fact that Jim Brown has a statue who's a known woman beater. Like, pick your side.
I mean, by all accounts, though, what Watson is accused of and what Kareem Hunt did, it's like a love tap compared to a slap in the face. Like, very drastic charges.
All I know is at the end of the day, for most NFL fans, most of them, as long as he wins, they're not going to care. They're not.
I mean, winning cures all. That's kind of the motto for most sports. But I'm not. Look, the amount of money they guaranteed to him long term, they got rid of a bunch of picks. Their roster isn't getting any younger.
Well, let's be honest.
They're not in a good spot after this trade, I don't feel like.
Cleveland doesn't. I mean, they've had a couple good draft picks lately, but they haven't had the best track record of drafting. We can be honest with that. So the fact that they're giving up a bunch of picks, look, if he's your guy and he puts people in the seats and you're competitive, he's worth it. Doesn't matter.
No, the only way this trade is worth it is if he wins a Super Bowl. Otherwise, it is a failure. You gave up too much for any other outcome to be an option.
I don't know, man. When you don't have a quarterback, it's not too much. That's my feeling.
That's because you're a Broncos fan that's gone without a quarterback for all but 5 years of the last.
It will change
20?
your perspective. I'm a draft guy. I love draft picks. You know that. I don't like giving them up for anything.
No, you do not.
You know that from fantasy. So
you do not.
But an elite quarterback can hide a lot of your deficiencies.
It can,
period.
but here's the problem.
Although Deshaun Watson had his best season and the Texans were still 4-12.
That's where I was just going to go with this. Cleveland is on the verge of just being Houston North because of the amount of money they just guaranteed to this quarterback. So, I mean, the more I think about it, the farther away I get from just the shock and amazement of the deal, the less and less I like it. And plus, let's be honest, I think Houston really likes what they saw from Davis Mills last year. And the fact that he was a number one recruit 4 years ago, coming out of high school, had some serious injuries, torn ACL and stuff at Stanford. A lot of people didn't hear or know about him coming out in the draft. He played really well last year with nothing.
I mean,
with nothing.
From all accounts, he's a smart guy. He went to Stanford, right? So he could probably pick up an NFL playbook.
Now, by all accounts, if Houston's as bad as the place as everybody keeps saying it is, if he's a smart enough guy, he's also leaving before he signs a big deal and hopes that he just plays well enough for a real team to sign him.
I still like the deal for Cleveland. They gave up a lot. I will definitely agree with that. But if
people think Denver gave up too much for Russell Wilson,
those people are dumb, though.
Then what Cleveland gave up for Watson is basically burning the earth and trying to move to Mars without an actual way to get there.
Legit. One of my buddies, Darren, great guy, texts me. I would say maybe half an hour. My phone blew up after the Wilson deal. Let's be honest. I had people texting me I hadn't heard from in like 6 months. He's texting me about it. He's like, man, you guys just gave up so much. I was like, we didn't give up anything.
Actually, the Broncos made out on that deal because when you look at it, Russ is going to be here, and I'll keep saying it. Russ is going to be here long enough to where the picks that you don't need the next couple of years because the core is so young,
they don't matter.
That you'll have him back, and he'll still be ready to go.
So,
Cleveland didn't do that. Cleveland's going to have to make some serious decisions with their backfield, their offensive line, and they still don't have any wide receivers.
So this guy's a Chiefs fan. And he was just like, you guys gave so much, all this stuff. I was like, if you have not watched the last 6 years of Broncos football with the quarterback play that's decent 1 week and hot garbage the next, you will give up heaven and earth to not have to watch that again. Period.
I wouldn't, only because I would just draft better than Elway did. Plain and simple. I mean, he's
Mistakes were made.
He's arguably the worst drafting GM over the last 15 years.
The Cleveland GM's worse than that. Before the new ones came.
No, all those guys did great on other teams. Like it was, they were just going to bad organizations. So, and I did feel your pain, but only for one season. Just to watch catastrophes of quarterbacks go in and try to pretend they're.
But that was only because your quarter.
Oh,
it wasn't because you didn't have a quarterback. There's a difference.
Absolutely, yeah. Or torment was going to end by the end of the season.
Yeah,
yours was going to just keep going. So,
so I still feel like again.
I know people who are picking the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Chargers to make the playoffs, and the Chiefs to miss the playoffs.
You're talking about Bart Scott.
That is one of them, and I don't think it's crazy. I think the Chiefs were exposed last year. I don't think they did anything to correct it, and everybody else in their division got better.
Chiefs have gotten worse on defense since the end of the season.
And all they did was add Juju on the offensive side.
And that doesn't move the needle for me at all.
Doesn't move the needle for me at all either. I don't think Juju, me personally, he's going to be the exact same as Hardman or Pringle in that offense.
yeah, I agree.
And you overpaid him to do it. There is a reason Pittsburgh said, see ya. We're not even going to, we don't even care.
He only got a 1 year, $10 million deal.
He was the third best receiver on Pittsburgh's team when he left. Claypool and Johnson were better. Juju's not that good. He had the benefit of playing against or with some really good people and as much as I don't like to say it, a smart quarterback. But that Juju signing does nothing for me. That doesn't make me fear the Chiefs at all. Because the other thing is let's be honest, how many targets is he really going to get a game? 3 or 4? He's not taking any away from Kelsey and Tyreek Hill.
I feel like he's going to be the Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
So the teams that can effectively take Kelsey and Hill out of the game. Well, I shouldn't even say out of the game. They can just contain them. Juju will be wide open, and he'll have those games because Sammy Watkins had those games.
That's what Hardman and Pringle were. I think that was your point.
Yeah.
It was just like, you figure out something, double team this person, whatever. If I'm just going to kill you underneath, you know what I mean? Put him in the slot because he's good enough to be. Listen, a nickel or a dime package is not going to be good enough for Juju, and I think that's where the benefit is. Obviously, you're not going to have any linebackers that can cover him if they're moving him into the slot. So I think he could be a weapon just in that sense. But I think it's a moot point with what you have. That's not really an addition,
Where I feel like the Chiefs got a little bit worse, honestly. They still have the best quarterback in the division. I'm not going to say they don't. But everybody else got incrementally better in that division. Incrementally better.
And it's, to me, the teams got better.
What am I missing?
Not just like one side of the
what am I
ball.
missing with San Diego? Because
You mean Los Angeles?
oh yeah, Los Angeles. Sorry.
Jar.
Yeah, I know. Our jars we're going to have a trip paid soon.
Well, they traded for Khalil Mack.
Added J.C. Jackson.
They added J.C. Jackson, which is a really good corner, which he could have been a really good corner because he was in New England scheme. He could be a really good corner. We don't know.
I don't think you have that many interceptions and not be able to. I'm not saying he'll have as many, but you don't have that many interceptions if you're not a really good
I think he's good.
Period.
I think he's good. My only thing is like a lot of defenders leave New England and then they're not as good.
That's 9 times out of 10. That's because Bill let him walk because he knew they were at the end of the rope. Jackson's in the prime of his career. This isn't a situation where Bill didn't want to re-sign him. This is a situation where he wanted to go somewhere else. That's the difference here. So, I mean, you've got those guys. You still have Bosa and Derwin James. And I'll keep saying it. Derwin James could be the best defensive player in the league if he can stay healthy.
One of my big issues lately has just been everybody on the Chargers. Like, they're going to win. They're Super Bowl contenders.
They are.
They haven't made the playoffs.
It doesn't matter, Pinky.
It matters to me.
The Bengals weren't Super Bowl contenders last year, and they made the Super Bowl.
The Chargers were Super Bowl contenders last year.
On paper. That's all you're judging. Every single preseason, you're judging on paper.
Until they show me they can't choke away a game.
Right.
Which they did multiple times last season.
Yep.
I'm not going to say this. Are they a playoff team? Sure. Are they a Super Bowl contender? Like, again, when I think of Super Bowl contender, if that team, I'm like, that team should absolutely make a Super Bowl. Playoff teams
I
like
don't
the
think about that at
Bengals
all.
last year, you're
That's-
like, could they make a Super Bowl? Sure, if they get the right matchups. But am I going to say they're a Super Bowl contender at the beginning of the year? No.
They don't have nearly the talent on paper that the Chargers have.
Hey,
though.
bro, a lot of teams have had talent on paper. That doesn't matter until they put it on the field.
But that's why you call somebody a Super Bowl contender when the year starts.
Again, show me. I've never seen every time the
So
Chargers,
then the Broncos are not a Super Bowl contender.
they're a playoff contender right now.
You won't call them a Super Bowl contender.
No, they haven't done it.
Okay, then that's fair. Cheers. That's fair. I'll accept it. I don't agree with it,
Now,
but I'll accept
would
it.
I be shocked if the Chargers made it? No, because any playoff team that makes the dance has a shot. For the most part.
I won't go that far.
I'd be shocked because they just know how to give games away, and you can only get so
Now,
lucky at
something
that,
to keep in
so.
mind. A lot of the games they lost last year, people would blame on the coach and the way he was so aggressive all the time. Going forward on 4th and 1 on your own 20. He did that a handful of times, kind of scenarios.
All I
last
know
year.
is they lost to Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos. So
did Dallas.
You shut your mouth.
Just saying, man. That doesn't mean the Broncos were a better team.
In
Any
either-
given
in-
Sunday, that's
in
the beauty
either
of
of
the
those
NFL.
situations.
Yeah. But first-year head coach, he's coaching like nobody else in the NFL. Players aren't used to that kind of aggression. That's just not what football does. Never has that been part of football. So the fact that that coach is willing to do that and live by it, going into this next season, his players have a little bit better feel for it. You could see a lot different
I
scenarios.
think he'll have a better feel for maybe I shouldn't do that.
I don't. If I'm him, I stay as aggressive as I was last year. Because if that ball bounces a couple different ways, a couple different times, they might be in the Super Bowl last year instead of the Bengals. So,
Oh no, because they didn't make the playoffs. So
but they could have.
And if the Bills got the ball, they would have won the Super Bowl. So
If the Bills coaching staff had not called a prevent, they would have been in the Super Bowl.
or if they would have kicked a squib, that might have worked too.
A lot of things that the coaching staff did to ruin that team's chances.
which is a coaching staff that I like.
Which is exactly what I'm saying about the Chargers. Now, you're not going to get rid of the Bills coaching
Wait,
staff, are you?
Actually, you want to know what the difference is in regards to what we're talking about? Bills would do things different. You're telling this guy to do the exact same thing.
No,
That's the issue.
I'm saying, look, there was a lot of things that McVay started doing that people were like, oh, that's innovative. That's different. When really it was just a Shanahan offense, have a solid run game, and that passing game opens up. He was just a little bit more creative the way he called the passing game. What Staley is doing, it's Staley, right?
Mhm.
For the Chargers. What Staley is
Brandon
doing for the
Staley.
Chargers is he is breaking a mold. And anytime I see somebody do that, especially in a sport like football that is so about the box, which I cannot stand, because I think there's been a lot of good talent wasted over the years because of that damn box. I think there is going to be an advantage if your team is willing to be behind it at all times as well. It's not always going to go your way. But me personally, I've always been this way. Great offense will always beat a great defense because you have the advantage. You know what you're doing and they don't. I prefer to be aggressive rather than play defensive. And I believe that's the way Staley's coaching. I like the way he's going about it. I hope he doesn't go away from it. And I believe if he does, it will pay off for them.
I'm just saying I have no problem with intent, but you have to prove it works.
Agreed. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Because if he comes out and has the exact same season he did before, like how many times do you give him
with better
mulligans?
talent on the field.
Right, exactly. And so because listen, that coaching also cost him games. Like
it did. It
when-
absolutely
that
did.
they were
Now,
leading.
Yep.
So
And we can give him a pass. He was a first-year head coach, right? That was his first season as a head coach. So we can give him a little bit
Now,
of a
here's
pass.
the other interesting thing to think about. Quarterbacks of Herbert's talent, year 3 seems to be the year that just things blow up. And he is very much in the early consideration for preseason MVP thoughts. If he can continue to improve at the level he has been over his first 2 years, that offense can stay healthy, they're going to roll, dude. There is massive talent on the offensive side of that ball. Massive.
I mean, the offense hasn't changed from last season. The
No.
defense is what's changed.
But when Eckler gets hurt or Allen misses some games or your tight end's not there,
It's not. Allen's been pretty good. It's Mike Williams misses games.
Williams didn't miss any games last
Yeah,
year.
he did.
2. I mean, that's not really compared to years past where he's
Compared to
out
previous
8,
seasons,
and you know what I
yes,
mean? Like,
but
Listen, that's the healthiest that roster has ever been. Okay,
Probably.
And here's a hot take. All right, I think Dan Campbell or David Culley would have had that team in the playoffs.
I don't disagree with you. I won't disagree with that. And I don't think that's necessarily a hot take either. I think, but they also play. Dan Campbell is arguably the best motivator in the NFL at this time. David Culley just turned out to be a really smart dude who knows football.
What he did with that talent,
Oh, crazy.
not to mention what the expectations were going into that season without Watson and all these other mess ups. Like they expected him
the
to
fact
fail.
that they
big
won
time.
4 games is amazing.
But here's what I'd
But
say.
they were competitors in a lot of games.
Do you have a better chance winning a Super Bowl with one of those guys or someone who's willing to be completely outside of the box and do something different? Or is it half dozen the other, flip a coin and it's the same either way?
You want to know what was innovative and lasted like 6-7 months? Snuggies. All right. So he very well could be a Snuggie. All right. He sold a bunch off the shelves till it came back next year. Like nobody cares. Right.
Good. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look
You
at
know,
this.
And I don't think the Chargers have fired their strength and conditioning staff yet. Until they do that,
The strength
I
and
don't know.
conditioning staff isn't the issue. That they're fine. Don't worry about them. It's the medical staff that you should be worried about.
I think it's the strength and condition that
The
leads
medical
to
staff is the
medical.
one who says whether or not you're healthy enough to do something. And the fact that they're, puncturing guys' lungs and putting them in the hospital and
Right.
should probably find a new team doctor and start there
Wouldn't
and then
it-
see what happens.
Wouldn't that technically be Deflategate 2.0?
That might be the original Deflate Cake.
I'm just saying, lungs collapsed.
I just don't believe it until I see it from the
Yeah,
Chargers.
that's how I am. Like I don't care how
Now,
gimmicky people are. I
I-
need to see it work.
I enjoy
So,
watching them play. Herbert is really fun to watch. I do like the powder blue jerseys. Derwin James, if and when healthy, is the best safety in the league.
I think he's the best defensive player in the league. Like, I would have no problem saying that if he can play
Aaron
a full
Donald's
season
still
healthy.
the best
Yeah.
defensive player in the league. But I see where you're going. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
He affects the game in a lot more ways than I think people realize because of the amount of games he's missed. That dude will play up on the line and play a ball hawk.
He can
out
do
in the
a lot,
back.
but
it's pretty crazy.
Aaron Donald has the quickest path to the quarterback.
I will not disagree with Aaron Donald. I think there's an argument that can be made,
Yeah.
but he has to stay on the field. And that's what's crazy is we always talk about what ifs, right? If this guy can stay healthy. Is there a bigger what if you can stay healthy than the Chargers and that roster?
No,
Bosa, Derwin James, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Eckler.
Khalil Mack.
Like
Khalil Mack hasn't finished the season in two years. So
crazy.
I think they can get to that point where we're talking about them in the Super Bowl conversation. I'm just not willing to put them there yet until I see something.
Right. That's kind of how I feel about it.
'Cause
Because you want to know what? They lost a lot of
I've-
games with healthy people.
I've had a
So,
lot of hate for the Chargers over the last probably 7 to 8 years because of how many times we've gone into the season with them as Super Bowl contenders and then they don't make the playoffs. Because they had a lot of hype last year too. And that's usually when I dislike a team is when they're getting a lot of hype and I'm like, wait, they haven't earned that hype yet. Like if you give hype to the Bengals for next season, they've earned it. They got to the Super Bowl. They were close to winning the Super Bowl.
I think they missed the playoffs this next year.
They could.
Yeah, absolutely. It's possible.
Like,
They could.
It's
Now,
always possible. Yeah.
I still think you'd have a better odds of convincing me that they're going to make a Super Bowl run again than you would the Chargers
interesting.
because I've seen it,
Interesting. Okay.
and now they have better protection. Hopefully,
They did go and fix their offensive line.
three new O linemen that helps.
Do you want to know the only reason why I would argue against that is because your division is arguably the most difficult division now.
What just happened in this offseason for the AFC West, in my personal opinion, made it the best division football's ever seen.
And we can argue AFC West all day.
Now, again, that's
AFC.
on paper. They could show up into the season and they could all flop left and right, and only one team makes the playoffs. I mean, we'll see.
The AFC West is stacked, but the whole AFC.
Well, so let's move along
crazy
here a little
stat.
bit because that's what I was going to say. When I sat down and started thinking about it, and you start thinking about the quarterbacks alone in the AFC, and then you start thinking about what's left in the NFC.
Yeah, they all jump ship.
Honest to God, because of the way Dak played last year,
Mhm.
he's not even in the conversation of top 10 quarterbacks anymore. What you have left in the NFC is literally Brady and Rodgers, and they're both sitting around 40.
I'm not going Brady and Rodgers. I'm going Brady and Stafford.
You could put Stafford in there too.
Rodgers ain't got nobody to throw to, man. It's what, a bunch of rookies and his
Well,
lack
the
of a
reason I
running
say
game?
Brady and Rodgers is because Brady put up the best stats of any quarterback last
Absolutely.
year, and Rodgers was the MVP. Stafford had
Now-
some very missed games
Will the
last
Packers
Yeah,
win their
year. Very
division?
down games last year. And let's be honest, if somebody learned how to catch a football, Stafford lost them a game and doesn't even make the Super Bowl. So I don't really look at it as Stafford won the Super Bowl for them, as much as he just played solid enough during enough times and got the one lucky bounce that you needed to get there. Whereas Rodgers won MVP and Brady put up the best numbers in the league last year.
And I think both of you are making a great point that those two things don't matter when it comes to getting a Super Bowl.
Nope,
So
not at all.
So that's why I don't
But
necessarily
it's
care
crazy
about it.
that, 3 years ago, we were talking about how the NFC was dominant over the AFC.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at it going,
It's on a whole
going,
other level.
NFC went scorched earth and the AFC went Amazon. Like, it's absurd. And it's all young,
Listen to
crazy good
this.
talent.
Listen to this list, Aaron. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, and that's just the West. Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Trubisky, Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, Davis Mills, Ryan Tannehill, Josh Allen, Mac Jones, Tua, Zach Wilson.
It would have been a lot quicker if you just said who the NFC had left.
Darnold, my boy, is in the NFC still.
I still think Jimmy G is going to play next year.
Where?
San Francisco.
You think he's going to beat out Lance and they're going to roll
I
with him
do.
again?
They're,
Well, then they're
they
starting
were,
to look like San Francisco
they're
and they wasted
literally-
that pick.
They were that close to being a Super Bowl team last year with Jimmy G.
I don't think Jimmy G's a bad quarterback. But by all accounts, from what a lot of media personnel saw Trey Lance doing in practice last year, they were surprised he didn't start halfway through the season. He is head and shoulders more athletic and by all accounts can throw just as well. I would be blown away if Jimmy G starts.
Well, you know what it is? Like some of these teams, they pick their quarterbacks like high school girls. Like they just go find the tallest one, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're
John
He
gonna
looks
Elway.
really good.
John
Right,
Elway,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, because that's obviously the difference between Garoppolo and Lance is like just the size, But with Lance's mobility and his arm, like, dude's got a rocket, and he can take off all over the place. I think I'm with you. I think if he played,
I think he
they
would
win.
Let's be honest.
I think
Let's
he
be honest
brings
though.
more.
Does anybody have a better nickname in all of sports than Jimmy?
I don't even know what his nickname is.
Porn star Jimmy?
What?
Yeah, he went on a date with a porn star,
Oh,
and then she commented on how their date went. It went well.
Porn star Jimmy's living the
mean,
life, baby.
dude, that's got to be the entire NFL has gone through that scenario. His is the only one that surfaced.
Oh, he's a good looking man.
So
He's just a stone cold box.
we all know how
All right.
I feel about Russell Wilson and the Broncos with my orange glasses. I gotta find out how you feeling about your Cowboys, bro.
I don't know, actually. I feel really good about the defense now that Dan Quinn's sticking around. And
Do you though?
yeah, absolutely. I think okay. So I think there was a lot of experimentation, right? Especially with I'm gonna lose the name. Our linebacker / defensive end.
Micah Parsons.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. So kind of
Yeah,
moving
he's
him
not
around.
leaving outside linebacker now for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he absolute beast.
He's just gonna be a hybrid all over the field now. Is what they're gonna do.
our
They're not gonna put him inside no more.
secondary
hell no.
obviously stepped up. You know what I mean? There were a lot of really good things. Where actually our problem was, I don't know if it was Kellen Moore and I don't know if it was the head coach because McCarthy. I don't know who was the contributor to that weird failure. Like things were going so well, and then all of a sudden things started to shift away from their game plans. Then they tried to, recapture. So I don't know. I don't know who's responsible. Whoever that is, though, shouldn't have a job.
It's McCarthy. I think I can pretty much tell you that much. Also, I think Kellen Moore's hands got tied when the fact that I don't care what anybody says, Pollard's not a 3-down back. He's not. And when Zeke got hurt and the offensive line started having some issues, the fact that you guys lost your run game is a huge issue. Now, I do believe Zeke has a big bounce back year. I just have a feeling that he's going to come back healthy. He's still young enough. I think he goes at least 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns next year.
Like I said, I wouldn't have given him that deal. I would have stuck with Pollard.
Nobody would have given him that deal.
We actually have depth. We have depth all the way to our practice squad.
I don't think your offense is going to be an issue, bro. Yeah. I think you should be worried about your defense still.
And Cooper is not a loss.
I don't think so.
Not
either.
At all.
I think he is.
Nope, no, not with CD.
Dude, no way. Our wide receiver depth is huge.
I think the bigger loss, honestly, is Cedric Wilson. Because who's going to step up and be the 3 now? That's honestly Washington. Where I think, and I think that was a sneaky signing. James Washington was underutilized in Pittsburgh for whatever reason. When given the opportunities, that dude had some big games. Honestly,
if Gallup stays healthy, Gallup,
big if.
Yeah. What I don't like is Dalton. That was kind of weird to me, but I don't know.
I mean, he's coming back.
You don't like playing $10 million to a guy who's like, okay.
He's Jason Witten Jr.
Well,
not.
Nah, I don't know.
Yeah, he is. He's the safety blanket for Dak, and he did great at it. What are you talking about?
Dalton and Jarwin prove that they're pretty much the same person.
No, I think Dalton. I think he definitely separated himself last year.
Well, yeah, he didn't have a choice.
I get Jarwin didn't play. I get that, but I think he proved. I honestly believe he's just a Jason Witten light. He's not going to be great at any one thing. He's not going to be the top tight end at any one position, but he was Dak's safety blanket when he needed it. And he did really well. I mean, if you want to talk fantasy numbers, he was a top 12, I believe, tight end last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. In other words, I think McCarthy either needs to get out of the way or they need to fire him. One of the two.
I'm still amazed, Jerry. Jerry is so stubborn.
Yes.
Like there are certain owners that are willing to just admit they made a mistake, pull the trigger, and be done with it. Jerry will hang on for dear life until they fall off the cliff.
Because then you have to admit you made a mistake. It's your fault at that point.
Jerry could just blame it on his son, and his son would probably be cool with accepting that and move on.
You got to let the coach make it his fault. Jason Garrett coached long enough that it was his fault.
Hey, you heard Jerry? I didn't hire Mike McCarthy to win during the season. I hired him to win in the playoffs. Well, that alone is enough.
I'd be worried about the defense. Can you guys really improve from what you did last year? I mean, the only reason everybody thought it was so good is because you went from 32nd to 6th.
They can improve
16th.
They relied on turnovers last year.
Yeah, we had tons of.
If they didn't get a turnover, they didn't stop.
Yeah, but their pass rush isn't going to be any better than it was last year. So where are you going to create the chaos that you need to get the turnovers?
I don't know. Their issue was stopping the run because they couldn't stop the run.
And what did you do to improve that?
Nothing yet.
That's a problem. I think that's what I'm interested to see. I don't think Dallas's offense is going to be any issues.
Listen, here's what they did. All right, they went out and they drafted 7 defensive players, and they made that kind of a change. I want to know what they could do in just the general off season to prep for that.
Now, that I will agree with you. There is reason to be optimistic. Dan Quinn gets another year with the same core group. So what can you do to improve on what you've already done well? So that in that regard, I agree. You can be optimistic, but still, I don't personally see.
And they play in the NFC East, so
that could help.
That helps a lot.
I also think, though, in all honesty, a healthy Washington team, because they were nicked up all year last year. A healthy Washington team, that defense is not going to be as bad as it was. There's no way.
I'd put my money on Philly over Washington.
A Ron Rivera-led team is always going to be competitive. And I'm going to be honest. I honestly believe Dabble is going to get something out of that offense in New York.
Not this year with Daniel Jones.
I do. Daniel Jones has shown flashes. And let's be honest. He has had no help from his coaching staff. No different than what we were saying about Trubisky. In fact, he has been detrimented on a number of occasions by his coaching staff. He also hasn't had any of his weapons healthy. Now, that's another big what if. Can Barkley stay healthy? Can Galladay actually get on the field? Can Sterling Shepard get on the field? If they're all on the field at the same time, with Dabble being a pretty good offensive mind, I think you could see some real flashes consistently out of Daniel Jones.
They're definitely going to have the biggest change in that division for sure.
So everybody talks about the NFC least. I think it's going to be more competitive than people are willing to give credit. Jalen Hurts is only going to improve. They're only going to add pieces.
I would pick Philly out of that division right now.
Really?
They made the playoffs last year, and they have 3 first-round picks in the top 19.
That's true.
Like they have a lot of ways to make
That
themselves
is
better.
true. That's a good point. I think it's going to be a really interesting division. The division I think is going to be the worst, and the one that people should be talking about is a clear, easy win is Tampa in the NFC South.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't.
Although Crab Daddy's back, he could.
No,
he
the
could make
Saints
things
bringing
happen.
back Jameis only proves my point. Plus, they don't have any offensive weapons, 0, because Kamara is probably going to be suspended for the year.
He gets at least 6.
No, he gets at least 8.
Could be, I mean,
Let's keep in mind,
that's not the year. I mean,
I think he gets the year. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think so.
When video comes out of them curb stomping a dude, yeah.
Well, okay, but that video
Yeah.
also might show that he was not the instigator. He could there are a lot of things that the
You do
video
know
can
the
also show.
story by all accounts right now is the dude just tried to get on the elevator with them and they told the guy no. And when the guy refused, they proceeded to beat the crap out of him. I don't see a lot of ways where that can go in Kamara's favor,
Well,
especially when you participated in curb stomping somebody's face.
Well, but that's hearsay right now. I don't know how bad it was. Like if we see the video and the dude goes kicks him in the ribs, you know what I mean? Something like that.
I mean, it was bad enough they were fearing this guy might die. That's how bad it was.
Well, yeah. When you have how many professional athletes going to town on you?
I mean,
that's
Adrian
probably-
Peterson got a year basically for switching his child, right?
Well, okay. There was a lot of detail to that, though. That was very particular.
Well, I'm saying there's no video.
Well,
there
like,
was
you don't.
photographic evidence.
Yeah,
of
you don't need it when
the
you have
marks
the
that were
evidence.
left.
Yeah. So
Granted, I get that's a child, not an adult, and that's a different level of. I get all that, but dude, if you're seen participating 4-on-1 and kicking a dude in the head, I don't see that going well for you.
I want to see the video. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to make any.
It will
statement on
happen.
it.
I mean,
And,
he's supposed to have a hearing this month, wasn't it? Or is it next month?
I thought it was this month.
So it will come. But let's be honest. If he doesn't play or he misses half the season, what else do the Saints have?
Right. Last topic before we get out of here. Malik Willis did his thing today.
I was wondering how you were going to feel about that. I didn't want to say anything because we know I've been high on him since before the last
So
season
again,
started.
I don't think he's the best interview. He reminds me a lot of Lamar Jackson when doing interviews, but the dude can sling a football. I think he's raw. I do.
Super raw. That's
I
why
think-
you got to go to somebody who can actually develop talent.
I think he needs to sit behind one of these, Mariota or, sit behind a guy for a year or two.
No, I'm so tired of hearing that. If you're a smart Lamar Jackson didn't have to sit behind anybody. He should have been starting
Yeah,
from day
'cause
one.
He was more of a running back year one than he was a quarterback.
Who cares? They built an offense around him, built to the dude's strengths, and I think he can really show out.
Okay, man.
And again, that's my biggest complaint with the NFL. They refuse to do that 9 times out of 10. I agree he's raw, but he does some things. Dude, he could have started for the Broncos last year and there wouldn't have been any difference.
There would have been some difference. His
Record-
footwork is horrible.
Record would have been the same. He could have at least gotten outside the pocket and ran the ball for a first down.
Maybe. Yeah, we suck. we would have sucked regardless. So yes, sure.
Well, I just mean like
he's
he's
really
not going to go to
good.
somebody
He
who's
needs
really
some work.
good, most likely, unless he drops far
Yes,
enough
but
for like
when-
a Pittsburgh to grab him or something like
But teams
that.
that aren't very good are going to have a hard time building up his confidence and keeping him off the ground.
I believe he's as good as Jalen Hurts was when he came out.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I think so.
no, not at all.
He's got a better arm. I think he's just as good a passer.
Uncle Rico has a better arm. I mean,
throw it over the
Don't
mountain.
even fucking hate that movie. Dumbest shit
I'm not a
ever.
big fan of that movie either.
Dumbest shit
I
ever.
didn't get it. I watched it a couple
Don't
times.
bring up Uncle fucking Rico. Got
Sorry,
me
bro.
cussing now. That's how much I hate that shit.
I look. The physical talents are there. I just don't think he's ready day one. I'm sorry. I don't.
Better than Drew Lock. Coach him
Sure.
up. That's all I'm saying. Coach him up and see what happens. Now, the question is, does he go somewhere that can do that?
No, he's going to go somewhere desperate.
Then he could be screwed.
Hopefully it's not Seattle because they're really bad.
Oh, that'd be terrible. I'd feel so bad for him. I'd feel so bad for him.
I don't think Seattle's in the quarterback market this year.
I honestly would love to see him go to Pittsburgh. As much as I love Trubisky and I think Trubisky can be really good, I think Willis has the potential to be generational.
I don't see that. I don't. Good, sure. I don't see him being generational. I don't. Could be wrong.
Hey,
I've been wrong before.
People didn't think Josh Allen was going to be anything coming out of college for the exact reasons you're talking about. Footwork wasn't great. Accuracy was terrible. Dude found a coach who corrected those things, and he is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. And a lot depends on what you put around the quarterback to correct whatever mistakes he might have and help him learn better skills.
He'll be fun to watch.
Like you said, raw talent-wise, the dude is very high on those charts. Can that raw talent be converted into consistent talent? That's the big question mark about Willis, I think.
Which I think he would struggle with that consistency early on.
So did Josh Allen. I mean, honestly, Josh Allen's first 2 years, incremental improvements, but not great.
Correct.
Year 3, all of a sudden, everything clicked, boom, off and running. So, can the same thing happen? I don't know. But I see, based on the talent I saw from that guy, I believe he could be a generational talent. He could also be a huge bust. I'm not arguing that either.
That's typically how it goes. One of those two. Yeah.
Well, no, usually you hear he could be good or he could be a bust. I think this dude really has the potential to be generational talent.
I think he could be good. I don't think he's a generational talent. He will not be in that elite quarterback group.
There's just too many variables these days. Like how well you mesh with, of course, not only just the coaching staff, ownership. But
you
also
get
what
drafted and your
weapons
head coach is Vic Fangio, you're screwed.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Justin Fields and Matt Nagy, everybody thinks he's pretty much a bust already. And I still think he's going to be phenomenal.
Tom Brady is not Tom Brady without Belichick.
Agreed. Or the same offensive coordinator for basically 20 years.
Tom Brady is not Tom Brady unless Mo Lewis wrecks Drew Bledsoe. Okay.
There you go. That's who we should be sending thank you letters to. Anything else? We're over 2 hours, so.
We're done. Definitely done.
Cut it. On that note, as usual, hang out with your family, spend that quality time with your loved ones, whoever that may be. Go hang out with your boys, watch some sports. You better be paying attention to March Madness this weekend. We're out.
This will be a good weekend.